The Arctic wind howls at 40 below, rattling the hangar doors like ghosts trying to get in. Blood stains the floor. A blonde janitor scrubs in silence, her hands red from the icy water. Colonel Marcus Hayes storms in, boots echoing fury. "Where the hell is our pilot?" he barks, frost curling from his lips. The janitor doesn't flinch. 3 soldiers are bleeding out 200 miles north. The Medevac chopper sits idle like a caged hawk. She sets down the mop and walks toward it. "I can fly." Hayes scoffs. "You, get back to your bucket." She pulls a worn leather wallet from her coat. Inside, a faded ID glints under the fluorescent light. Hayes freezes. Her name, her rank. His eyes widen. She climbs into the cockpit without another word. The engine coughs, then roars to life, and far to the north, a flare shoots into the sky. Have you ever been dismissed because of how you looked? Where are you watching from? This story happened at one of America's coldest military bases, and what happened next changed everything. Sarah Mitchell has been invisible for 6 months, exactly how she planned it. 32 years old, with blonde hair from her Swedish grandmother and cheekbones from her Athabascan mother, she wears oversized janitor coveralls that hide the muscles memory built from 1,000 missions. Every morning at 0400 hours, she arrives before the soldiers wake, mops their floors, empties their trash, and listens to their conversations like she's furniture. They call her Bucket Brigade when they notice her at all, make jokes about squaw work when they think she can't hear. The worn notebook in her pocket holds more than cleaning schedules, and the eagle feather on her keychain isn't decorative. In her wallet, tucked behind a grocery store rewards card, lives a photograph of her in a very different uniform. Fort Wainwright houses the Arctic Warriors, soldiers trained to fight in conditions that would kill most humans in minutes. January in Alaska means 20 hours of darkness, and the base operates in a twilight world of artificial lights and endless snow. The crisis started 3 hours ago when a training exercise went sideways. A vehicle rolled down an embankment, and now 3 young soldiers lie broken in the wilderness, their body heat seeping into permafrost while medics work with numbed fingers to keep them alive. The weather-ground civilian aircraft turns the sky into a wall of white static that swallows helicopters whole. Time bleeds away with their body heat, and every minute costs them blood they can't spare. Colonel Marcus Hayes commands this frozen kingdom like his personal empire. 48 years old, 3rd-generation military, his chest bears ribbons from conferences and ceremonies, but none from combat. He schedules meetings during prayer times, assigns women to supply roles regardless of qualifications, and once told a native recruit that his people weren't built for complex machinery. This morning, he conducts his emergency briefing with the efficiency of a man who's never held a dying soldier. Sarah enters to empty the wastebaskets, and he throws crumpled paper at her feet. "Mitchell, can't you see we're in crisis? Get out!" The room fills with nervous laughter from junior officers who know better than to stay silent. Somebody teach the help about timing. Lieutenant Chen suggests checking the civilian pilot database, but Hayes waves him off like swatting a mosquito. "We need warriors, not wage slaves. Look at her, probably can't even drive stick shift." The laughter grows louder, bouncing off concrete walls while Captain Rodriguez stares at his boots. Hayes blocks Sarah's path to the door, his bulk filling the space like a wall of arrogance. "Actually, stay. Watch real Americans solve problems. Maybe you'll learn why some people lead and others clean." Sarah's fingers tap against her mop handle in a specific rhythm. Throttle, collective, cyclic pedals. But no one notices the pre-flight check sequence playing out in muscle memory. Her eyes flick to the aviation weather monitor, reading patterns in the chaos that the room full of officers miss entirely. The storm worsens while they argue protocol. Their primary Medevac pilot lies passed out in his quarters, bourbon bottles scattered like landmines around his divorce papers. The backup pilot sits stranded in Anchorage, watching the same weather that might kill 3 soldiers if someone doesn't act soon. On the radio, medical officers relay vital signs that drop like stones in water: internal bleeding, hypothermia, traumatic brain injury, a symphony of decay, playing out in medical terminology. Hayes cares more about signatures than heartbeats. "I'd rather lose soldiers than break regulations by putting unqualified personnel in cockpits." The words hang in the air like poison, while Sarah's knuckles whiten around her mop handle. She approaches the communication desk where weather data streams across monitors in green phosphorescent warnings. "Sir, I know the storm patterns here. There's a window and the order comes, swift and petty. Clean his office while they handle real work." Sarah gathers her supplies without a word, but Captain Rodriguez notices how her eyes track the flight paths on screen, how her head tilts at radio chatter, like she's translating a familiar language. In Hayes' office, she pulls paper towels from her cart while sketching on a napkin with movements too quick to be casual. The flight paths she draws avoids the wind shears that Hayes marked as primary route, swoops through valleys that exist in her memory but not on standard maps. She knows where downdrafts hunt for helicopters, where ice builds on rotors faster than heating systems can compensate. Rodriguez finds her notebook later in the hallway, pages filled with calculations that would make academy instructors weep with envy. Helicopter schematics annotated in margins, hand-drawn maps marking crash sites with dates and survival times. One note stands out. Crashed here, February 2009. Survived 6 days. Never forget. The supply closet becomes her command center. Behind bottles of industrial cleaner, she retrieves a tablet wrapped in plastic. Aviation weather loads slowly on base Wi-Fi, but she reads the data like sheet music, finding rhythms in chaos. The encrypted phone weighs heavy in her hand as she dials a number that officially doesn't exist. It's Phoenix. Yes, I know I'm not supposed to. Lives at stake. The voice on the other end speaks for 30 seconds before she hangs up, decision crystallizing like ice on her soul. Back in the briefing room, Hayes proudly displays his flight plan on the projector, a route that would send any helicopter directly into a wind shear that could rip rotors off like flower petals. A young lieutenant raises his hand, voice shaking as he points out the flaw. Hayes dismisses him with prejudice worn smooth by repetition. I've been planning missions since before you were born, son. The medical officer's voice crackles through speakers with updates no one wants to hear. 1 hour until organ failure. After that, the sentence doesn't need finishing. Everyone knows what after that means. 3 flag-draped coffins. 3 families destroyed. 3 sets of dog tags joining thousands of others in desk drawers and memorial walls. Sarah stops mopping mid-stroke as radio chatter mentions the families gathering at Fairbanks Medical. A 5-year-old daughter waits for her daddy, same age as the child in the photo Sarah carries next to her heart. She sets down her mop with the finality of a judge's gavel. The walk to the briefing room measures 30 feet, but crosses years of hiding, promises made to ghosts, and pain compressed into cleaning schedules. Her hands work at coverall zippers, and the oversized uniform falls away like shed skin. Underneath, she wears a flight suit pristine as fresh snow, patches carefully removed, but shadows showing where they lived. Colonel Hayes, I'm taking that helicopter. The room freezes like someone hit pause on reality. Hayes' face cycles through confusion, rage, and disbelief before settling on fury. Security! Arrest this woman! The leather wallet feels heavier than it should as she unfolds documents that officially shouldn't exist. Chief Warrant Officer Sarah Phoenix Mitchell, 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment Night Stalkers. Honorable discharge October 2019. The Night Stalkers, pilots who insert special forces into places helicopters shouldn't fly, who thread needles in darkness while others sleep safe in beds. Sarah has more combat flight hours than the entire base combined, specializes in Arctic extractions that other pilots call suicide missions. Hayes stumbles over words like a drunk finding furniture in darkness. Then why the hell are you mopping floors? The answer comes soft as falling snow but lands like an avalanche. Because I promised someone I'd never fly again. But promises to the dead shouldn't kill the living. The room shifts, energy changing like barometric pressure before storms. Hayes grasps for control like a drowning man finding driftwood. Stolen valor. Anyone can fake documents. This is a crime, and I'll see you in federal prison. Sarah rattles off classification codes with the ease of reciting childhood prayers. Operation names that exist only in files that require congressional clearance to read. Each word lands like a physical blow on Hayes' certainty. Rodriguez clears his throat, the sound loud as gunfire in the silence. Sir, I ran her prints weeks ago. Curious about a janitor who understood our flight patterns better than half our pilots. She's legitimate. Medal of Honor recipient, though the records are sealed. The revelation ripples through the room like shockwaves. Sarah's voice drops to whisper weight. October 15th, 2019, Coast Province, Afghanistan. Flew into an ambush to extract a trapped unit. Saved 12 lives, but her hand touches the spot where wedding rings hide under flight suits. Lost my co-pilot, my husband. Swore on his grave I'd never touch a stick again. Hayes makes his last stand like a chess player down to his king. Doesn't matter, you're not current, not cleared, not under my command. I'll have you court-martialed for even touching that aircraft. Sarah's eyes hold his, with the weight of every life she's saved, and the one she couldn't. Then court-martial me after I save them. She turns toward the door, and Hayes orders the MPs forward, but Rodriguez and 3 other soldiers form a wall of solidarity. Those are our brothers dying out there, sir. We won't be part of letting them freeze because of paperwork. Sarah performs the pre-flight inspection in half the regulation time, her hands moving with muscle memory that 5 years couldn't erase. Every switch, every gauge, every mechanical prayer performed with the precision of ritual. Hayes screams for someone to stop her, threatens careers and court-martials, but the soldiers stand firm. The helicopter's turbines whine to life, a sound that makes her hands shake for just a moment before training takes over. In the co-pilot's seat, a young medic straps in, with fear written across his face like graffiti. "Ma'am, the weather..." She cuts him off gently. "What's your name?" He swallows hard. "Peterson, ma'am." She nods once. "Peterson, we're going to save them, trust me." The weather hits them like a physical assault the moment they clear the base perimeter. Visibility drops to 0, instruments spin like slot machines, and the helicopter bucks against winds that want to tear it apart. Radio crackles with demands to return. "Phoenix abort, repeat abort mission." Sarah's voice stays steady as heartbeat. "Negative control. 3 souls on board, heading north." The medic grips his seat as the helicopter drops 50 feet in a downdraft, stomach somewhere near his throat. "How can you fly in this?" Sarah's hands dance across controls with unconscious grace. "Mount Denali creates specific wind patterns. Feel that shake? We're exactly where we need to be." She threads between ice formations, invisible in darkness, flying by memory and instinct honed in Afghan mountains, where death waited behind every ridge. The helicopter starts icing, that insidious killer that adds weight until aircraft fall like stones. Standard procedure screams to land immediately, find shelter, wait for conditions to improve. Standard procedure didn't account for Night Stalker training, he tells Peterson, then performs a maneuver that shouldn't be possible, using rotor wash to blow ice off the aircraft's skin, a technique she perfected in conditions that killed lesser pilots. The medic watches her face, sees peace there that doesn't belong in chaos. The landing zone exists only in Sarah's memory, a flat spot near the overturned vehicle marked by GPS coordinates and prayer. She descends through whiteout conditions using references that exist in her mind, a ridge that creates specific turbulence, a valley that channels wind predictably, the way ice sounds different on rotors depending on altitude. Peterson watches instruments that insist they're about to crash, but Sarah lands soft as a mother's kiss on sleeping child. "How'd you see the landing zone?" She's already unbuckling, grabbing medical supplies. "I didn't see it, I remembered it. Mapped this entire region my first month here, while everyone thought I was just mopping floors." Back at base, General Thompson arrives to find his colonel explaining why a janitor stole a helicopter. The general's aide pulls up security footage on a tablet, Hayes throwing paper at Sarah, dismissing her weather warnings, declaring he'd rather lose soldiers than break protocol. The families of the injured soldiers stand behind the general, having driven through the storm to wait for news. They heard every word of Hayes' priorities, and their faces show the kind of judgment that ruins careers. "Colonel, explain to me why my janitor is flying my Medevac?" Hayes stumbles through explanations that sound worse with each word, while the radio provides real-time narration of Sarah's flight. Her voice cuts through static with professional calm that makes trained pilots take notes. "Fairbanks Medical, this is Phoenix. 3 packages secure, all breathing. ETA 4 minutes. Have trauma teams standing by." The room erupts in cheers that Hayes doesn't join. He stands alone like a scarecrow after harvest, watching his certainties crumble. General Thompson's voice could freeze antifreeze. "Colonel, you're relieved. Captain Rodriguez, you have temporary command." Hayes tries to slink away, but the general's voice nails him in place. "Stay right there. Watch what real leadership looks like. Maybe you'll learn something." Sarah lands at the base for fuel after delivering her precious cargo to waiting surgeons. She climbs out to find Hayes blocking her path, his face a masterpiece of humiliation and rage fighting for dominance. The entire base seems to have gathered, and General Thompson watches with interest that could cut glass. Hayes forces words through clenched teeth like pulling nails. You violated every protocol, every regulation, Sarah interrupts with quiet authority. I followed the only protocol that matters, duty to life. Sir. The honorific lands like sarcasm, though her tone stays respectful. The general steps forward, presence commanding without effort. Chief Mitchell, that was some of the finest flying I've seen in 40 years of service. I'm implementing new policies immediately. All personnel will be evaluated on capability, not current position. Too much talent hiding in this command, because people like Hayes can't see past their own prejudice. He pauses, studying Sarah with eyes that miss nothing. I need a chief flight instructor, someone who can teach our pilots to fly like that. The job's yours if you want it. The crowd holds its breath, collectively, waiting for her answer like verdict in a capital case. Sarah's response surprises everyone, maybe even herself. I'll train your pilots, General, but I'm keeping the janitor position too. Amazing what you learn when people think you're invisible. Might save more lives that way than in any cockpit. Rodriguez can't hide his smile, and several soldiers nod with newfound understanding. The general extends his hand, and she shakes it with the firm grip of equals. Welcome back to the sky, Phoenix, though I suspect you never really left. Hayes watches this exchange like witnessing his own funeral, career dissolving faster than snow in jet exhaust. 3 months pass like seasons changing. The soldiers Sarah saved return to base for a ceremony nobody mentions, but everyone attends. One walks with a cane but walks nonetheless, alive to complain about Alaska winters and kiss his daughter goodnight. The little girl breaks from her mother's hand when she spots Sarah, now wearing flight suit with instructor patches, but still carrying the mop bucket she was filling when the call came. The cleaning lady who flies, she shouts with 5-year-old enthusiasm that makes grown soldiers tear up. Sarah kneels to the child's level and they share a moment that needs no words, just understanding between souls who almost lost everything. The base transforms, slowly but surely. Rodriguez leads an initiative to identify hidden talent among support staff, and discoveries pile up like gifts under Christmas trees. A former Navy SEAL works as a cook because his PTSD makes offices feel like cages. A cybersecurity expert files papers because her hijab made certain people uncomfortable in technical positions. An aerospace engineer drives supply trucks because his accent made people assume stupidity. Each revelation adds weight to Sarah's example, proof that prejudice costs more than pride. It costs excellence. Hayes watches these changes from his reassigned desk position, pending investigation results that everyone knows will end one way. Sarah teaches mixed classes now, officers and enlisted, men and women, backgrounds as varied as Alaska weather. She starts each lesson the same way, mopping the classroom floor while students file in confused. Lesson 1, she says, wringing the mop with practiced efficiency. Everyone watches the janitor. Everyone ignores the janitor, which makes them either the best spy or the worst threat assessment in any room. Your choice, which one costs lives. Then she teaches them to fly like their brothers and sisters depend on it, because eventually they will. Hayes sometimes watches from his window, no longer in command, but finally, perhaps, understanding. The investigation into Hayes concludes with predictable results: forced retirement, loss of benefits, a cautionary tale, whispered in officers' clubs about the cost of arrogance. But Sarah intervenes one last time, speaking at his hearing with grace that tastes like forgiveness. Colonel Hayes represents a system, not just a man. Punish the man, but fix the system, or we'll face this again with different names and same results. Her words carry weight that ranks can't provide, the authority of someone who's bled for every insight. Hayes meets her eyes across the hearing room and for the first time really sees her. Later, Sarah finds him packing his office, career reduced to cardboard boxes and bubble wrap. Why, he asks, the single word carrying years of confusion. Why help me after everything? She considers the question with the patience of someone who's asked it of themselves 1,000 times. My grandmother taught me that eagles soar highest after storms pass, but she also taught me that the storm serves its purpose. It clears dead wood, shows which trees have deep roots, teaches us to shelter together. You were my storm, Colonel. Without you, none of these changes happen. Without you, those 3 soldiers die. The eagle feather on her keychain catches fluorescent light as she adjusts the photograph in her helicopter. Not just her late husband now, but also the 3 soldiers she saved, the families kept whole, the future pilots who learn that courage comes in unexpected packages. Her grandmother's voice echoes across years and cultures, wisdom that transcends uniforms and regulations. Courage isn't the absence of fear or the breaking of promises, it's knowing when keeping them would break something more sacred than our word. It's choosing lives over laws, humanity over hierarchy. The final frame of this story belongs not to Sarah or Hayes, but to the base itself, transformed by truth revealed in crisis. Soldiers still need their floors mopped, their trash emptied, their spaces cleaned. But now they look at the hands doing these tasks and wonder what else those hands might hold. What skills hide behind humble roles, what heroes walk among them disguised as help. Sarah still arrives at 0400, still pushes her mop through empty hall, but now she wears her flight suit underneath, ready for when the next storm hits and someone needs to fly into darkness to bring others home. Because true worth isn't worn on shoulders or hung on walls, it lives in the choices we make when no one's watching, and the lives we touch when everyone is.